This week on Inside Athletic Training, a PBATS podcast, we welcome in Mike Sole and Jon Becker, two former Yankees athletic trainers who formed a special bond outside of the game. Enjoy the show. All right, Mike and Jon, welcome to Inside Athletic Training. Super excited to have you on for episode 73 of the show. Appreciate you coming on, giving some time today, share your story, which is amazing, and also talk some athletic training for some of the younger students and professionals out there. For those who don't know, Mike and Jon met as athletic trainers in the New York Yankees organization and their minor league system in 2017, and are now connected in a way that is more unique than many have heard, and probably something they never expected. So guys, to start, I want to give you some time to introduce yourselves, share some info to our audience about your background, what you did growing up, how you got into athletic training, and also what you guys are up to today. So Jon, why don't we kick it off with you?
Yeah. So Jon Becker, I'm from Effingham, Illinois. Worked with the Yankees from 2017 through 2022. Climbed the system there, and now I am the first assistant golf professional at Effingham Country Club. So made a little bit of a jump there.
Awesome. And Mike, what about you?
I'm originally from New Jersey. I was with the Yankees from 2014 to 2021, but there was a little bit of a gap there when I went to grad school. So I interned and then was with them throughout that other time in the minor leagues and with Jon up in the major leagues for COVID. And I currently work for the Medical University of South Carolina. I'm our Health and Human Performance Manager.
Awesome. And shifting gears a bit to, since this is an athletic training podcast, I want to hear from both of you guys about kind of your history in athletic training, maybe how you broke into the game, because that's, very, very tough to do, as we all know. Kind of your role with the Yankees. We'll get into some more of the interesting COVID stuff here in a bit, but yeah. So Jon, talk to me a bit about your background in school, maybe how you broke into baseball, and was that also something you always kind of looked to get into?
Yeah. So my jump in athletic training went all the way back to my senior year of high school. We had a class called Health Occupations, which was a dual credit with Lakeland Community College. And I had to do rotations at the end of, basically you got your CNA degree or certification, and then you had to do rotations. Well, I picked to go to like a vet clinic, my dentist, a chiropractor, and then there's a sports rehab and enhancement center in Decatur, Illinois. And I went up there for 2 weekends and saw what athletic trainers were doing, not only athletically, but with the Caterpillar employees in the industrial side of things. And I'm like, all right, I like helping people, love sports. Mm-hmm. This is a great combination. And then I went to McKendree University, got my undergrad degree there, graduated in 2013, did an internship with the Puget Sound Collegiate League out in Seattle that summer as an athletic trainer, strength coach, and game ops intern. Basically ended up running the league by the end of the year with one of my other college buddies. And then got a job at a high school, as most of us athletic trainers do as the start. I was at Nashville, Illinois at the high school through a hospital, and which was great. Loved it. We had great sports teams there. Won a state title my first year with the softball team, and a lot of great athletes. One of my former athletes is a lineman for the Green Bay Packers now. So very proud of that.
Yeah.
But as it all does, we come for a time for a change and a challenge, and wanted to make the jump into pro baseball. I thought, through college that was my way to go. And started shotgunning my resume out there, and next thing you know, it's right place, right time, and getting my resume in the hands of the right people to network with and connect and go from there.
Yeah. Mike, what about you?
So I'm originally from New Jersey. Most of my family's from the Bronx, actually, or like northern New Jersey. So growing up, I was a big Yankees fan, but ironically enough, just terrible at baseball. And Mark Littlefield and John will attest to that. So
hey, you got a great first pitch. That's all that counts.
There you go.
Yeah. But so let's see, I played high school and lacrosse growing up. And I knew I wanted to be an athletic trainer because I got hurt so often, honestly. I needed ankle surgery in 8th grade. I dislocated my shoulder and needed like a labrum repair in high school. So I spent a lot of time with like physical therapists, athletic trainers, and knew that's something I wanted to go into. But I also knew I was nowhere near athletically inclined enough to actually like be an athlete past high school. So I took an interest in science, and I took a careers in medicine class in high school. And we got to see different things, and I got to shadow a surgeon. I was like, oh, I'm going to be an orthopedic surgeon. This will be fun. And I shadowed him for 2 days and decided I was not going to be an orthopedic surgeon because he didn't get to form a relationship with his patients. And for me, I like to talk. I like to get to know people. And I want to be with that person from the time they got injured to when they got back to when they're successful and kind of in between. So that's when I kind of switched gears to athletic training. And no offense to physical therapists by any means, but when I went to physical therapy, I remember this gentleman used to always fall asleep next to me. And I was like, I won't be able to put up with that. So I was like, athletic training is for me. So I went to undergrad at Rowan University, and I got my I majored in athletic training. And, from there, I'm like, hey, I either want to be at a college or at the pro level. The high school setting just didn't really appeal to me. So I knew if I wanted to do that, I needed to get my master's degree and get some good internships. So I applied to every internship and did every volunteer thing possible in undergrad. And big thanks to Jimmy Downham. I got an internship through PBATS with the Staten Island Yankees when I was a junior going into my senior year. And that was how I got into baseball. Really, I did the internship. I like to think I was the best like water cooler cleaner ever. And I was, I kind of tried to soak in as much information as I could. So that was a great experience. And I took that with me to grad school, where ironically enough, they didn't give me the baseball position because someone else had already had it. But I was in midway through my second year of grad school, and I decided I need to start looking for jobs. And I reached out to Jimmy about, hey, just athletic training in general. Like, do you have any connections anywhere? I don't have really a preference. I know I'm young. I got to work my way up. And they just so happened to have somebody who was leaving, but I was going to have to leave grad school early. I was going to have to leave grad school like 6 months early. And I ended up doing that and finished things online. Thankfully, Mark and my old supervisor at Florida Atlantic worked that out. But I started off actually right where I interned with the short season Staten Island Yankees. And I was in baseball then. And I tell you what, being someone who wasn't good at baseball and really just knew the medical side of things, I learned a lot about baseball and learned to like fall in love with the game.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I know everyone's story is so unique about how they got in the game, from working at a high school to some people doing a big league level internship and just, moving super quickly through the process. Looking back on those early days for both you guys at, either a minor league affiliate, internship, just learning athletic training and what it's about. What kind of things should younger people looking to break into the athletic training profession in baseball, what was it like for you guys? Was it trial by fire? Was it insane how much stuff you had to learn very quickly? Did you feel prepared to be there? What do you guys think about those early days for you?
I would say always don't be afraid to ask questions, but right, there's a right time and a right place.
Yeah.
So read the room, but don't be afraid to ask questions when it is the right time, because I think if you show a willingness to learn, that's the biggest attribute that you can let them know that you have. If you don't get accepted for an internship, that's okay, right? There's other things out there, and really kind of like learn the grind. And by that I mean it's okay to take internships that don't pay, right? Those are hard to come by. So like gaining experiences is huge, and always keep in contact with folks. You never know what's going to happen on the other side of things. I can't tell you the amount of people I ran into for a short season, maybe, and then I run into them 3 years later. And because I sent like one text to say, hey, if you guys need anything during the game, give me a shout, people remember things like that. So I think that's really key. So like, obviously keep on trying, but always be willing to learn and ask questions, I think was really big for me.
John, what about you? What are your thoughts on, the early days of your athletic training career?
Yeah, I would say, and I remember having a conversation with Mark about this. I said he I forget whether he asked me about what my goals were and this and that, and I'm like, new into this, I'm overwhelmed. I remember looking at Mike and I'm like, how do I not screw this up? Like it was definitely overwhelming for me early on, because even we go in and a guy's like, hey, can you stretch my shoulder out? I'm like, yeah, sure. I know stretches. But then you're in a professional baseball setting and you're like, oh no, what do I do?
Yeah.
It's just
confidence kind of takes a hit when you see people who are more seasoned and you feel like you don't have a clue what's going on, huh?
Right. But I had the conversation with Mark. I just said, I want to be really good at the little things, the simple things, and take care of those. And then I can build from there. If you can, even whenever I was that early on in it, I was like, well, I can clean a table. I can clean the shelves. I can do this and that and just be a sponge to what's going on, handle the little things, and then make sure that it's, just add as we go. That, and as Mike said, communication, communicate with people, ask questions, build those relationships. As I heard somebody talk with me, gather those dots, right? You never know how you're going to connect the dots, but just like Mike said, maybe a text message here, a text message there down the road, they connect and help you or you help them in a big way.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
I think something really big, everything seems very overwhelming, and a lot of people ask you questions about when is this going to happen? When's that going to happen? Where is this? And I'll never forget, Mark told me it's okay to say, I don't know, but I will find out. And I think it's really easy as a young athletic trainer in positions like that, feeling like you always need to have the answers because you want to prove yourself. So it's important to understand that you don't know the answer and that someone will actually find it to be a better answer if you say, I don't know, but I'm willing to find out the correct answer for you. I think that goes a long way.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think anyone in their early days of their career, you show up and you want to, stand out, and maybe that gets in the way of learning and staying in the background, laying in the weeds, learning from people like Mark and Stevie and all those guys up there. So I'm wondering, you guys never worked at the same affiliate or location together, I believe. Talk to us about how you got to know each other. I know. I also want to hear about the COVID season, how that brought you together, how crazy that was. So give us more info about kind of your relationship and background there.
So I had been in the organization a year before Jon got there. So the gentleman who kind of trained me and kind of took me under his wing was leaving to take another position outside of baseball. And so it opened up a position for Jon. And so when we brought Jon in, I kind of felt that I should take him under my wing and, do what the gentleman just did for me, do that for him as well, especially because he was going to the affiliate that I just had. So, I got a promotion because Jon was coming in, which was nice. Yeah. But I was like, well, who better to tell this guy, the ropes of things than me. And also I'd only been there a year. So I kind of felt like I was in similar shoes as Jon, coming into a new situation and not really knowing what to expect and how to handle a lot of things. So I kind of felt like it was my duty to help him get started and hit the ground running. So when Jon came aboard, I was excited, but also it was a new experience for me too, of like, well, what do I tell this person? Do I tell them everything? Do I let them figure things out on their own? So it was actually kind of good for both of us. It gave me experience as well. It turns out Jon's a great guy, and but I'll let him finish out the rest of it. But that's kind of actually how it got started. It was like, who's going to take this person and kind of show him the ropes of things.
Gotcha. And Jon, go ahead.
that's what I was looking for personally, was somebody to take me under their wings and be like, all right, this is how, these are the big things to avoid. These are the little things that you need to do well. These are things to focus on. And Mike did a great job of that. And we figured out from an early day too, that both of us like Taco Tuesday and deadlifts. So we bonded over the tragedy of deadlift day, but also the victory of Taco Tuesday afterwards.
For sure.
So
yeah, that's common for probably most young people out there looking to bond over cool things like that. So you guys are both since out of the game, out of athletic training, off to different professions. Mike, talk to us a bit about your decision to leave the game. Kind of what went into that, and also how you landed, not necessarily how you got into your position, but what led you to want to do what you're doing now.
Well, at the end of every year, Mark would always ask us, hey, like how do you feel? Right. What, do you want to come back? If so, like, what are some goals you have? Would you ever think about being a coordinator? Do you want to move up? Do you like the level you're at? And in my mind, I was like, I always want to get to the big leagues. Like, I think that's for me, or I want to be a coordinator. And so I was like, I'm willing to put the time in and everything. But then COVID happened. And I think that's kind of when John and I got our closest too. Right. And even prior to that, I mean, we shared the common beliefs of, like, we like to lift, we like to do athletic training, we like tacos, we share our faith together. So we had a lot of, commonalities, and it's always good if you can find that one or two people in your organization who you can kind of hold on to. But I saw myself kind of climbing the ladder of things. And then we kind of did make it to the big leagues in a sense. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. But by the same token, I'm like, this is a massive grind. And I was hitting my late 20s, and I'm trying to start to think about, like, okay, like, what do I see my life like? I want a wife, a family, things like that. And I saw a lot of our coaches, they would be, watching their kids' games on their screen on, like, a phone for, like, the weekends. And I'm like, oh, that's really tough. And I give those coaches so much credit for being fathers. I remember coaches' families visiting during the season. And I grew up in a family where, like, my dad was an accountant and my mom was a teacher. So fairly traditional jobs. Yeah. And I kind of wanted to be able to give that to my future family, but then also to my niece, my nephew, and things like that. So in my mind, I started to think of, well, like, what's a way to be in baseball, and kind of have that lifestyle. And I don't really know if that's achievable, but I also think too, I talked to Stevie a lot about it, right? Stevie's been in the game. I think he's got to be going. I think when I was there was his 49th year. So I've been out of the game 3 years, so he might be going on 50 plus. So I would talk to Stevie a lot about it. He's a wealth of knowledge. I would talk to Mark and Timmy and Chuck about, like, hey, like, how is it, trying to have a family, like, all these things, because I think they respected it because I was thinking about the future, but I was like, hey, I love what I'm doing. Like, I'm not going to abandon you guys. But when I was in Charleston, was our first year of having the Medical University of South Carolina as our healthcare provider. And, I got to work with some of their physical therapists and their physicians, which cover our games, and just really down to earth, caring, genuine people. Really, they made my life a whole lot easier. They were really on top of stuff when it came to getting images done. The doctors were at most of the games, and you could tell took a genuine interest in the players and were really willing to help us. I'll never forget it. Our team physician, his name's Dr. Sloan. He left his clinic because I had a TOS case and we thought it was a medical emergency. And he left his clinic in his scrubs, came to the stadium, evaluated the guy, and took him to the ER himself. And in my eyes, I was, this is somebody, like, who I want to model myself after. Like, this guy's an orthopedic surgeon. He just took his time out for a little over here. So that really meant a lot to me. And as I moved up, right, like, and I did COVID, then I moved to Tampa. I still kept in touch with those doctors because something that I kind of learned was, like, always keep in touch with folks. You never know what's going to happen. And I found them to be good resources, not just professionally, but personally as well. I saw how, they both, worked high intensity jobs, but kept families. So as I started to think about other things, one time I just reached out to Dr. Sloan and I was, hey, I'm thinking about getting out of baseball, but I don't want to get out if I don't know what else is out there. So you're a doctor, like, do you work with athletic trainers, and what positions do you work with them in? Because if not, like, I'm just going to stay in baseball, and I like doing what I'm doing. I'm very happy with it, but I also kind of always have this like inner drive to want a little bit more, maybe just see what else is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of let me know that, hey, like, I think I might have something, like, but then COVID hit and it kind of messed some stuff up.
Sure.
But one thing that I didn't like about baseball is you're always rushed with people, right? Like you always want more time with a player to get them better. And I also noticed that a lot of the guys we would draft out of high school, there was so much pressure for them to get drafted that these guys were on 2, 3, 4 travel ball teams.
Yeah.
And no one was educating these kids or their parents about, hey, like, that's too much for them. You might be ruining their careers now before they get there. And it kind of broke my heart to some degree to see these kids that were 18. They got a nice signing bonus, but now they had Tommy John their first year in pro baseball.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, your whole life is ahead of you. Like, so, and then then the Yankees brought on Eric Cressy, and he's kind of taken on that battle head on. So I talked to him about like the youth scene and kind of what the private sector of things look like as well. So he was like a wealth of knowledge and information too, and it made me think about, like, can I help this? Can I help solve this problem by educating parents and youth athletes? So that's one reason why I kind of moved out of baseball, is I wanted to kind of help a problem that I saw often there.
Yeah.
And give myself some more stable, like, hours, I'll say, like more traditional hours.
Sure.
So I'm still an athletic trainer. The Yankees were fortunate enough to help me get my strength conditioning certification too. So I was a bit of a liaison from our sports med staff to strength conditioning. So I utilize that in my workplace now. And now it's great. I get an hour to an hour and a half with every client or patient. And I work with, youth athletes in the Charleston area. Youth athletes, major league, minor league guys that live in the area. And I see also like your general population folks as well. And tennis and golf are big over here. So I have a lot of folks in those areas as well. And it's also kind of nice to give back. I mean, obviously, especially what Jon and I have gone through, now I get to help people who are kind of in similar situations to me of being ill, help them find a better way to get through these, to get through those tasks or, like, hurdles in life too.
Yeah, no, super interesting story. Athletic trainers and the guys I talk to on this podcast, it's all about serving the people in front of you. And I think that's a huge trait that we've realized on this show, from all you guys who've been athletic trainers. Jon, I know you moved over to a different sport. Talk about your transition from baseball into golf.
Yeah. So it kind of goes back to COVID was such a pivotal year for so many people out there. I know, no matter what way it affected you or what it changed for you. And definitely that was where Mike and I got the closest. Spending the only times we weren't together was when we were sleeping and showering. Basically, it was like everything else. We were eating meals together and working together and everything else. We got very close there. And I remember at the end of the season, Mike was driving me to the airport, and I was like, "So how do you feel? Like, what do you think about what we did and where you're going?" And at the time, this was a pivotal time, I know, for Mike, but at the time he's like, I want that. Like, I want the big leagues. Immediately after, that was what he said he wanted. And I looked at him and I go, dude, that's the opposite. I've figured out, I know this is extraneous circumstances, but this is not what I want. I don't need to make it to the big leagues. It would be cool. It would be awesome. We have an amazing staff up there that we got to work with that do a tremendous job with Tim and Mike and Alfonso and Stevie and everybody, Joe Bello. They're awesome, but I just knew it wasn't for me. So that was when I started to do a little bit of soul searching. 21 season, I was in the complex league. So that was really nice to have a little bit more of that stability. I was in one place in Tampa with Mark and Spratty and working closely with them and kind of evaluating that coordinator side of it, right? To see if that was something I wanted to pursue, and took that into, in 22, I was in Hudson Valley with the Renegades, the high A affiliate, when we were up there. So just kind of kept it in the back of my mind of, all right, where I enjoyed what I was doing. I loved the people, being around baseball, the travel, enjoyed all of that. But tried to figure out, okay, if I'm not going to be in the big leagues, then do I want to be a coordinator? If I don't want to be a coordinator, well, that leaves me where I'm at. And I didn't know that I could do that for the next 25 years. So one of my old friends is the head golf professional here. He's now my boss, Tim Kraus at Effingham Country Club. I was back home for the All-Star break for a couple days, stopped in to see him. And I kind of started telling him where I was at and where my head was at. And he goes, well, do you want a job? And I'm like, let me think about this. And so we ended up having a conversation and, evaluated it from there and started looking at, all right, what does this really look like? And what's the next 25? And that was what got me into golf. Of being here at the country club, it allows me the opportunity not only to be in golf, which I played in college and I love, but it also gives me a chance to use that athletic training side of my history and help out our golfers. Ironically, one of the easiest ways to hurt your back is pulling golf clubs out of the golf cart or out of your car to put on the golf cart. So that's the number one cause for back injuries in golf. It's not the actual rotation in the sport. It's that. So being able to offer a movement screen to our members and help them understand, okay, well, I know why you swing this way, or let's use your anatomy to, one of the big ones is just even flaring their toes out to get a little bit of that external rotation on the hip and allowing them to rotate better. Cause they're like, man, my hip hurts when I swing. Well, I got an idea why. So, that's been, and again, goes back to the servanthood part of it, right? I'm in a retail space now where there's members to take care of, and you want to make sure that they have their best experience at the club possible and that they're taken care of. So in a similar way to what we did for our athletes in baseball.
Yeah. Really cool to hear you guys both talk about, the desire to stay in sports, in some way. I think that's similar to myself. The dream ends for all of us playing, Mike, like you mentioned, at some point. So it's cool to see you guys kind of using your, like you said, Jon, that anatomy aspect and taking a different approach. I'm sure the members appreciate that their health is taken care of on the side by you. Well, that leads us, guys, to a little more personal story here. I was certainly touched by it when I spoke with Mark Littlefield. Excited to hear more about the process, what you guys went through. I mentioned a very special bond between you guys at the beginning of the show here. So whoever would like to start, just want to hear about your story, the beginning, how you guys got together to do the amazing thing that you did. So, I'll let you guys take it from here.
Well, I guess it was June and May and June of 2021. I started not feeling good. So I had been at my new position for maybe like 6 months or so. I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina, and I just didn't feel good. I was having heartburn and just generally not feeling good, feeling really fatigued. I didn't feel like a desire to really work out anymore. And I kept telling myself, I'm going to go see a doctor. And when the summer's over, I got people visiting, I have concerts I want to go to. And, July 4th weekend, I went up to New Jersey to go see my family and celebrate a friend's birthday. And I woke up on July 3rd with my stomach was very distended and I had pain on my left side. So I thought I was having appendicitis. And it was honestly some of the worst pain I ever had. But I was like, okay, this will subside, and I was able to fall asleep. Mm-hmm. So the next morning I wake up and it's July 4th and I'm like, boy, I do not feel great. I feel nauseous, but if I can get back down to Charleston, that's where that's where I work. So I'll know physicians there and everything will be okay. So I get back down there and I didn't feel good at all. Took myself right to the ER and they did some scans and they asked me, they were like, hey, you're going to stay the night. They're like, there's a blockage in your abdomen. But we don't know what's causing it or really where it is. We just know that your abdomen is filling up with fluid, and we need you to stay here. We talked to general surgery, and they don't want to touch you, but we need you to stay here. So I was like, okay, like I'll just call out of work. I'm sure this is nothing crazy. And within 2 or 3 days, they were like, hey, listen, like you have a blockage in your liver. It's a blood clot, but
Wow.
we're going to send you home, and you're going to contact this office, and they're going to help you take care of it. And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I still don't feel good.
Yeah.
Stomach still looks very distended. And they're like, okay, like we'll leave you here one more night, and we'll reevaluate things in the morning. And that night, when they went to go draw my blood, all my liver numbers went through the roof. And they were like, hey, you're having some serious liver complications now. That blood clot is blocking a significant amount of blood flow to your liver. And everything that's supposed to be filtered is now getting dumped into your abdomen. So that's why you feel this way. Unfortunately, we only have one surgeon here who we want to do these types of surgeries. So I had to wait like 5 or 6 days
Wow.
to get that done. And I ended up getting it done. So what they do is they put a stent in to the vein, to kind of similar to when they do a bypass surgery.
Okay.
So they do that, and they were like, hey, you're going to be on blood thinners, for the foreseeable future. And we're going to have you check in with someone who's got hematology. So we're going to look at your blood, make sure you don't have any clotting disorders, you don't have cancer, and we're going to go down that route. And ironically enough, I mean, that whole time I'm texting John. I mean, we lived together our last year, right? We went through all of COVID together. So I'm texting him, and I'm like, hey, man, yeah, things aren't going well. Like, I'm in the hospital. And ironically enough, Mark called me. It was on like day, I was in the hospital for a total of 11 days. He must have called me on like the 8th or 9th day. And he's like, hey, like just checking in. It's been like 6 or 7 months. Like, how you been?
Wow.
And I was like, well, I'm in the hospital currently. And Mark was like, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, it's not. But he was like, hey, Mike, like, obviously if you need anything, like I'm always here if you need anything. And, please feel free to reach out. And I will say, my mom passed away when I was with the Yankees, and Mark was like one of the first people I called. And the Yankees, were more than supportive of me and my family and everything. So I knew when he said that, he actually meant it. He wasn't just saying something like very corporate. So I knew he meant it. And I was like, I definitely, keep you in the loop on things. So that was a tough time getting out of there. But when I left the hospital, they were like, hey, you do have a liver issue. You can't drink, and we're going to be monitoring this. So I'm talking to John, and John's like, hey, hey man, if you can't drink, I don't need to drink either. Like if you need someone kind of in that battle of, not drinking, I can be there for you and be like, yeah, support system. So I was like, well, thanks, man. I really appreciate that. Like it's difficult, right? You're in your like late 20s, early 30s, and it's just the thing to do socially.
Sure.
And us coming out of baseball, unfortunately, it's part of the culture a little bit there. As things kind of went on for the next couple of months, the stent they put in ended up collapsing, and I had to get another surgery. So that happened, and I said to the physician, I said, this was only 1 month after we fixed it initially. Like, what's the likelihood this is going to happen again?
Yeah.
I said, hey, we're going to have a much different conversation, but didn't tell me what was going to happen. I'm talking to John the whole time, and afterwards, this second surgery, like 2 or 3 months later, I started to get swelling in my feet. I started to get jaundice, like the yellowing in my eyes.
Yep.
And things just really aren't going well, and I'm not feeling great. But every time I go to the doctors, they tell me that my liver is going to regenerate and things are going to get better. So just to like hold tight. Eventually, this had to have been around February or March of 2022. I did a presentation with my boss, Dr. Sloan, actually. And after we got done with the presentation, he looked at me and asked me if I was mad at him. And he said that because he said, you don't look like you're here. And I was like, to be honest with you, I really don't know where I am, which is odd. Like I'm a very aware person. I said, I don't know where I am. I just know that I'm here doing this. So he took me downtown, and I was actually suffering from encephalopathy, which is when your body can't take out enough ammonia because my liver was starting to kind of shut itself down.
Wow.
So then I had to get put on another medication, and then I kind of said to my doctors at MUSC, like what's our outlook look like here? And I'll give Dr. Sloan and my other supervisor, Dr. Pellick, a lot of credit. They were like, hey, we're going to come with you to this next appointment and really figure out what's going on here. And that was when they were like, yeah, like things don't look great, but like there's still an opportunity for your liver to do well, but like you might need a liver transplant. And I think to hear that as a 30-year-old, 31-year-old, it's a bit much, because you're like, what does the outlook on the rest of my life look like, was kind of the first thought that I thought of, was like, what does that mean? And I know it's hard to get an organ just in general. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty tough information to hear. And that definitely like rattled me a little bit, but I'm like, okay, yeah, like we might need that, but they said might, so like we can just kind of continue on. And I was going up to, so now we're going to go into November, December, and I'm traveling up to New Jersey, or I'm in New Jersey with my dad, and we were actually going to a Yankees game. So I'm talking to Mark, and I actually got sick in the car going to the Yankees game, and we couldn't go. And that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for me, of like, okay, now this is really significantly impacting me. Like I need to do something here. And when I called Mark to kind of let him know that I wasn't going to be going to the game, he was like, hey, Mike, listen, like, I know you really well. I've known you for like 7 years now. I think it's time you start to seek out some other options here, because you don't sound like yourself when I talk to you. You sound depressed. You just don't sound like you. And I would really kind of urge you, if you can, to like seek out some other options. So that meant a lot, right? I mean, he's known me, since the beginning of my career. He knows me really well. And sure. I'm like, he's not going to play around by saying that. So I'm like, I think you're right. So I was talking to him and Joe Bello a lot about it, and they brought it up to Dr. Lee. And he was the one who got me into or helped me get an appointment at New York Presbyterian with Dr. Fox. And when I went in there, I spoke to her and told her everything that was going on. And she confidently was like, hey, we can help you. And that was really relieving. I mean, I remember crying during the evaluation, because I told her, I said, I don't feel like myself, and I don't feel smart anymore. And I consider myself like a fairly intelligent guy, and I can't think as quickly as I can. And I'm like, now that's affecting my self-confidence. And like, now I'm going down this mental health hole.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so she's, ironically enough, one of my best friends that I grew up with was in the waiting room, or was in the office with me. And she said, your buddy right over here, he can donate his liver. Yeah, that's no problem. And she just made it sound super easy, like, and I was like, oh, can he? And she goes, yeah, she's like, we have this thing called a living donor, where like one of your friends or family will give you a piece of their liver, and it'll regenerate in a couple of weeks to some months. And she's like, you're a young guy, you would have great outcomes for this. And that's it. Yeah, I was like, that sounds cool. So the way she phrased it to me gave me a lot of hope. Like, I left that appointment like on cloud 9. And I think it was like John, 1 or 2 days later, I think I called John and I was like, hey man, because I need some time just to like digest that. Like, I actually did need a liver transplant, and this was going to be what my life was. And it was funny. We left the appointment and I didn't ask any questions. I said, like, put me on the list and like send me the information. I should have asked a lot more questions, but I called John and I was like, hey man, yeah, I'm going to need a liver transplant. And he was like, oh, cool. He's like, so like, what do you need to do? Like, who like can donate it, and how does that work?
Yeah.
You just need to be the same blood type. And he's like, oh, okay, cool. So what's your blood type? And I'm like, O positive. And he's like, oh, me too. Like, just shoot me the link on how to sign up. And it was as simple as that, which
wow,
is obviously a massive blessing, and makes it sound way too easy than what it is for 99.9% of our population that needs that. So I think that speaks volumes of A, who John is, but then B, what a divine scenario as well.
Yeah. And yeah, that's absolutely crazy story. My mind's racing. It connects to so many aspects of your life as an athletic trainer, to so many mental health issues that we're seeing today, and in sports and drug abuse, all that just crazy stuff that comes from a myriad of things. And for you, it was a health issue. So obviously we appreciate sharing that story, Mike. Jon, you get the news. I mean, the simplicity of that just blew my mind in terms of, hey, you can, a living donor, go for it. You guys were extremely close to the time. What's going through your mind when you get this news? Also, I'm interested to hear from you, like risks to the donor. What was that like for you? I'm sure, I mean, that's a huge undertaking. I'm sure a ton of fear in both of you. So talk to us a little bit about that process.
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, as simple as Mike just made it, that was the initial call. That was how it went. In my mind, I was like, well, yeah, it makes sense. They take part of mine and give it to him probably, and it regrows and we're good. Like, but then I got off the phone and obviously I'm like, wait, what did I just sign up for? What am I doing? But also not knowing at the time how difficult it was to find a match and a donor. But just wanting to, make sure I was there for my buddy and make sure that I was helping in any way I could. Mark Littlefield actually had us set up he came up with the idea to set up a GoFundMe. And so we had started that. And then it was just another way to get involved. And to be honest with you, the entirety of the time, like through the testing and everything, I didn't really have that much fear and trepidation in me. Okay. The only time it was they basically, you fill out the link and then they get back with you about scheduling appointments. So you have to do virtual appointments since I'm in Illinois and not New York. Mm-hmm. They did virtual appointments with financial consultant and like a sports psychologist, a nurse, and other various medical professionals too, because the donors have their own medical team and they do a full range check of like, look, in your case, you're a healthy individual. This is a completely unnecessary procedure for the donor, right? It's not a medical procedure that would be necessitated by the donor. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously the recipient needs the organ. So they want to do everything they can to make sure you're going to be 100% at the end of it. So when the nurse explained the procedure and like how intense it was, I was a little fearful there. I was just like, oh boy, here we go. But as Mike kind of alluded to earlier, I mean, as a Christian man of faith, I kept going back to prayer and just, if the Lord wills it, this is my time and this is what needs to be done. And that he was going to take care of us. So continued to, just push through and went through the testing. The biggest thing that they worry about that they do have to tell you about, there has been like one death from living liver donor transplants, but it was someone that had multiple other comorbidities that ended up they have, from other people's mistakes, they have learned to make sure that they're ruling all these things out. They do an incredible job of making sure that I was going to be 100% at the end of the day. Other side effects, there's a few other things that are very much short term. But the biggest one, honestly, is the fear of hernia at the end, because I've got a nice incision down from my belly button to my xiphoid process. I've got a straight line incision there. Not quite as big and cool looking as Mike's, but it's close. So that's like the biggest thing. And then, the night before was when I was most, in fear, because it was real. It was the day before. My mom and my uncle were there, ready to go. We had to be there at like 5:30 in the morning and out in the lobby area with Mike's dad and my mom and uncle. We all had a little prayer and really, really powerful moment. And then away we went.
That's an amazing story. I mean, like I've said a couple of times, you're a bond that's so strong, to do that for a friend is just amazing. So after the surgery and the procedure's done, everything goes smoothly. Kind of talk to us about that, Mike, specifically you, about recovery and kind of how you've led a healthy lifestyle up until today.
Definitely. I think, I think the other thing, I don't even know if Jon knows this, but, kind of leading up to that, I don't think he realized that. So he volunteered, but I also had some friends and family volunteer as well. But some folks kind of got weeded out for certain issues, and then they can only use up to 70% of the donor. And so my sister was actually going to be a donor, but they needed to take like 72% of her liver. So that takes her out. So, because it was the golf season, we needed to wait a little bit for Jon to get tested. So I think I probably had like 4 or 5 folks offer, which was obviously amazing and a beautiful thing in and of itself. But all of them had been declined essentially. So Jon was kind of like my last hope, as easy as it sounds, but he was like my last hope for a living donor. So if he went through the process and it didn't go through, I was going to be okay, like, do I put up billboards in Charleston? What's going to be my next move here? So I mean, when he called me, we did a FaceTime. So he's like, hey, you mind if we catch up? I was like, yeah, like I was depressed. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I was depressed. And so I was like, yeah, like I'll FaceTime with you. And we'll catch up. And then he told me, and then I just started to cry because I'm like, okay, like this is literally like a call of hope. But I don't think, I don't know if he knew that he was my last lifeline.
Amazing.
I didn't know that in those terms for sure. But as we went through the process, it continued to feel like I'm like, as scary as it was to think about, I'm like, as long as I'm under 70%, it's got to be right. Like young, healthy guy. I haven't drank in, 6 months, 7 months or whatever. I'm like, it's got to be right. Like it just felt like it was meant to be.
Yeah. But I mean, after the surgery, I think what's really wild to me is, so I had these thoughts kind of going into the surgery. So ironically enough, they do the transplant surgery now where they used to do the orthopedic surgery. So where I saw Dr. Ahmad do Tommy John on guys was like the same hallway I'm walking down to go get my liver transplant. And it honestly gave me a bit of calmness because I was like,
familiarity with the space.
Yeah, I was like, I know where I am. Yeah. I mean, I tell you what, I was really scared going into it. I mean, I had a lot of faith and confidence, but as soon as I laid down on the table, I was pretty scared that like I'm either going to wake up and things are going to be great. I'm either going to wake up and they're going to tell me something went wrong, or I'm not going to wake up at all.
Yeah.
So I think when that started to set in, I started to get pretty nervous. And the nurse and the doctor had a tremendous bedside manner, but when I woke up, I felt like $1 million. Like I had more life in me than I think I've ever had.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it was an energy. And even though I couldn't really move, it was an energy of like alertness that I hadn't felt in like over 1.5 years. And that was being in the ICU. I was like, this is a
long way to go from there.
Yeah, I was like, this is awesome. So it was great. And what's crazy, right? Jon's uncle met me for the first time the day before the surgery, and he walked in the ICU and he's like, oh my gosh. He's like, you got color in your skin. Your eyes look normal now. And it had only been 5 hours, maybe, like, because it was a 10 hour surgery, 10 plus hour surgery. And like my body had already like started to work, which was just like amazing in and of itself. So yeah, the next day, the nurse had me, and the PT had me walking around with a walker, which was wild. But yeah, I mean, overall, they told me to prepare to be in the hospital 14 days. I was there for 9, I think. And then I went back and I stayed with some friends and family for the rest of the 3 months. But I tell you what, it certainly helped being an athletic trainer going through that whole process because I was in really good shape going into it, like physically. And they said that helps out significantly, just getting back into it. And then the fact that I was motivated and kind of knew what to do in terms of not being, sedentary, getting up and moving, knowing that I need to move to make myself feel better. So honestly, it helped out a lot. It took a lot of weight off the PTs for sure. I mean, it was a blessing. But I feel great now. I'm back to working out. I'm still not allowed to lift like anything really significantly heavy, like past like probably 40-ish pounds, because my incision is the width of my abdomen, like just falls on my rib cage. Yeah. So that they're afraid of hernias for the first like year or so. So I've definitely channeled. I've done a lot of more yoga. Like I got into yoga, which is pretty awesome, not only for, the mental health and mindfulness purposes, but also in terms of like just flexibility and mobility. So I've actually kind of changed up my athletic training practice and theory kind of based on that too, of mobility, breathing. How does this all affect it? And how does such a large surgery now affect my body? Like my posture has changed totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I mean, a whole lot of life lessons. I think I've definitely, one of my clients actually earlier the other day asked me about my perspective on life now. I was like, yeah, it's definitely changed.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, I feel great. I feel like I have like a zest and an enthusiasm for life that I lost for like a year and a half. And like, I think I said to John and a couple other times is like, I feel like back to me, I feel back to being myself, which is, I think the scariest part before is I didn't feel like myself. I didn't know like what my outlook was. I used to say to like my sister and some family and friends, like what's left for my life if I'm 31 and I have this like failing liver. So, to do that. And then I think something I really struggled with afterwards was like, if it weren't for Mark, if it weren't for the Yankees, if it weren't for like my friends and family and having a really good support system, like none of this would have been possible.
Yeah.
Like I would have no idea to make a GoFundMe or how much it was going to cost. Right. Like this is an over $500,000 surgery.
Yeah.
So like, how do you begin to climb that mountain? I wouldn't have any idea behind that, but I think from a mental standpoint, knowing that I have, the backing of all my friends and family, and I got, Mark and the boys behind me, is a really great feeling to have. But then the caveat to that was like, how do I show these people how grateful I am? And I think that's something that I really struggled with was now how do I say thanks to these people? And Mark and a few other folks kind of said it really well, was like, you live a good life, you live a healthy life, and you kind
Make them proud.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You show folks that like who they invested in was the right choice. And so, certainly doing that, but I think that, and then helping to, raise awareness, and be able to help others, when I can. I just actually joined. So because of Hope Week with the Yankees, actually, the American Society of Transplantation contacted me, and I'm going to do some things with them, which is pretty
awesome.
Cool, and helping folks on the patient and client or patient side of things, as well. So like even that, to be able to give back, I don't know how many other 30 some odd year old people need liver transplants, but they're out there. And I think
for sure.
also need to know that A, there is hope, but then B, like you're not alone either. Right. Like, so I think a lot of it's giving back now.
Yeah, that's great to hear you're doing some work to advocate on the behalf of people in situations like yours. John, I want to hear from you. Mike mentioned Hope Week with the Yankees. Steve Donahue, Tim Lentich, Mike Schuck, all the guys there. Awesome members of PBAS and athletic trainers leading the staff. You guys were recognized for your bond and for what you went through and your part with the Yankees organization during Hope Week. Talk about that experience, just to be honored and recognized for this story and your relationship with those guys and how that was for you.
Yeah, it was definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity there to be able to go from being in the organization, the time that we put in with the Yankees to really becoming family with those guys. It felt like we talked about having our Yankee family, and this was like an incredible, I don't want to call it a capstone, but just incredible icing on the cake of just a day to celebrate that we have Mike healthy and just celebrate that with everyone there, to be able to go around and spend time with I know Austin Wells was with Mike, and I both had him our last couple years in the organization. We're able to build a relationship with him, to be able to spend something like that with a guy that now is in the big leagues and catching and seeing his success has been really cool. It was always cool, as an athletic trainer, to see your guys go up and succeed, and then to be able to celebrate a day like that with him and with Boone and Tonkin and Chappie and all those guys was just incredible. To be able to be on the field. BP, talk with all the guys, that we work so closely with in 2020 and in spring trainings, and just a whole different experience of Yankee Stadium than what I had. I'd been to Yankee games, but there's a difference between being at a Yankee game and then being out there in front of the mound for a first pitch that was just incredible. I didn't sign up to do this to be for something like that. I signed up to try to get Mike healthy, and I'm just very grateful that we have that. But Hope Week and the word that we could spread, and hopefully the lives that we can change through that. That's just an incredible honor. A guy like O'Neill Trinidad, who was out there with us, that has been needing a kidney for 3 years. Hopefully we can get somebody to sign up and donate to that. And then meeting some guys on the side that there was a couple reporters there that had actually done a kidney transplant last year as well. It was a guy his son's soccer coach ended up donating a kidney.
Wow.
So to be able to connect all those dots and share those stories was just incredible.
Yeah. I mean, again, I appreciate you guys both sharing the story, your experiences in athletic training, and more importantly, your experience together in this bond you formed from something totally necessary. Amazing stuff. Mike, I do, to end the show today, I want to give you some time. You mentioned your advocacy for everything related to what you dealt with. If you want to share any information about where people can learn more, donors or people going through what you're going through, feel free to take a couple minutes there to share that info.
Thank you. I mean, I know we're all given the option to be an organ donor on your license. And when you fill it out, I remember filling it out and being like, yeah, that sounds cool, but you really don't know what you're signing up for. But I would urge folks to, become an organ donor. They're not going to use you, obviously, while you're living, unless you consent to it like Jon did. But you can help someone. You really can. And you can save a life and you can change a life. And to me, that's kind of the beautiful thing of it. I don't think it matters really what you believe in, but if you're not going to be here, why not help someone else? To put it lightly. So if you can, go to donatelife.org. You can also sign up there too. But even not only that, you can also, help people out who are in the same situation as me. And I find myself to be in like a very few percentage of people that had a lot of help and support, and not a lot of people have that in these situations. So we need to help out those people to make sure that they're successful as well. Yeah. I think that's important more so than anything else. So if you can go to donatelife.org and you can register there, I think that's really important. And also too, more so on a broad note, right? From the mental health aspect of things, I think on the outside, a lot of people saw me as like I looked fit and healthy and everything was going fine. But deep down, my body was failing, and so is my mind too. But you can always be a good friend to somebody and always reach out if someone's sick. Chronic illness, whether it be a liver, high blood pressure, really anything negatively impacts people. So I think that's important. Always be a friend for someone, and always be willing to reach out at that time too. Yeah, are some big things there.
Mm-hmm. And Jon, any last words from you in turn? People out there who may be in a position like you right now. Could be rare that one of our listeners is experiencing that, but anyone, you've obviously talked to us about the fear and kind of also the faith to get you through this. Any last words for anybody who might be in your position in the future?
Yeah, I would say just continue to invest in those relationships that you have currently and in the people around you. Because this is just this whole thing ended up being, the people around us brought this all together and brought us all through it as well on that side of things. So without the support that we had there, it would be, I don't know where we'd be at, whether it was people donating meals or flights or this or that. We both were very well supported. So, it's truly rewarding to be able to see the changed life that Mike has now. Cause he was a brand new guy the day after surgery. So, don't be afraid to get involved. Not everybody's going to be called to do so, but don't be afraid to get involved. one way or another in supporting them through Donate Life or other organizations.
No, that's awesome. And Mike, you just mentioned donatelife.net is a place people can go to learn more. So check that out. Mike, Jon, truly appreciate your time today. Just an amazing story. I'm blown away by the bond you guys formed through athletic training. And we're here to share stories about athletic trainers and this amazing journey. Big shout out to Mark Littlefield, Stevie Donahue, all the guys up in New York who supported you and support the players and everything up there. And again, we wish you guys nothing but the best in the future and hope to stay in touch.
Thanks for having us, Sam.
Thank you for listening to Inside Athletic Training, a PBATS podcast. For more information about PBATS and athletic training, visit pbats.com.